G'day, internet fans. This is George. I'm going to talk about today's message of hope, the 2nd of June 2026 edition. So, a 16-year-old boarded a United Airlines flight from Newark to Spain last weekend with his family. Nothing unassuming, right? But somewhere over the Atlantic, a crew member scanned available Bluetooth devices and found one named Bomb. Makes me wonder, why would you want to do that? Anyway, the plane turned around. Yes, it actually happened. So imagine 200 passengers, a full transatlantic flight, but it goes back to Newark, where everyone started from. So everyone off the plane. Port authority, police, the TSA, you name it, right? Customs, border protection, they were there. And now the FBI, it's also involved. So it turned out to be a pretty big deal. And you know why? All because of a Fitbit watch. Now, I've got to be honest with you. It's just my sixth sense of humor. My first instinct was to laugh. Not at the passengers and the pilots and the customs, not at all. Yeah, not at the chaos, because it would be pretty horrible if you were not playing. But at the sheer Leslie Nielsen quality of the situation. For those of you who are old enough to remember his movies, you know what I'm saying. I mean, this is the scene straight out of Flying High, isn't it? The kind of absurdity that would have rated a groan and a laugh track in 1982. Yeah, you can almost hear the soundtrack. Except this is now 2026. It's a different world today, and the world changed after September 11 in ways that mean a careless word in a shared space, even a name on a fitness tracker, for goodness sake, that nobody was supposed to see, carries consequences that no reasonable person would have predicted when they typed it in. Who would have thought about this? Yes, the teenager almost certainly didn't intend any of this. That's my belief. Yeah. He wasn't trying to go ground a plane. He had no reason to. He probably named the device years ago as a private joke and forgot that it existed. And here's the thing. See the difference? Intent and impact are not the same thing. And in a shared space, it is the impact that everyone else has to live with, not the intention. Now, I know this because I've been that person before. Are you ready for my humble submission? Early in my marriage, I thought I was quite funny. See, a church member received 2 phone calls from me, prank calls. First call, I said, hey, this is from the police. Second call I gave, it was from the tax department. Both times completely fabricated, of course. I've never worked in those departments. And both times I thought, hey, it was a bit of an icebreaker, so it should be hilarious. Well, let me say that person did not agree at the second call. Or was it the third call? I can't remember. That person tolerated as long as possible and then told me plainly, just say why you're calling. No more fake identities. Let me cross the road first. Okay. And when I told my wife what I've done, she didn't laugh either. That's her personality. What she said was, can you be more mature? Be more sensitive to the others? I think she was more like yelling at me. And that one stayed with me. Now, I've been so focused on my own amusement that I haven't spent 30 seconds thinking about what it felt like to be on the receiving end of these calls. Mind you, I've received prank calls before. I reacted differently. I laughed at the joke. Anyway, the spark of anxiety when someone you know tells you the police want to speak with you, yeah, I guess it wasn't pleasant for someone. And that is what my joke actually cost that person. And I hadn't considered it for a moment. Oh boy. Interesting that a decade later, right? I caught my son doing the same thing, saying that he was from the FBI. Though I never taught him to do prank calls, okay? So the relationship was never quite the same, I guess, after the prank call. I did say sorry and apologize. we move past it. But some things done once leave a mark that an apology can soften but not fully remove. It just depends if people want to forgive, huh? Now, here's what the Apostle Paul writes in his letter to the Colossians, chapter 4, verses 6. Let's be clear, he is writing specifically about Christians, or how Christians speak to those outside of faith. But the principle underneath it reaches further than that, I feel. There it goes. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. Very interesting passage, right? Depends on how you interpret it. It just puts the analogy seasoned with salt. And I'm guessing in Paul's world, salt did two things. First of all, it flavored and it preserved. Yes, it's been proven. Over centuries, people use those ingredients. Now, food without salt didn't just taste bland, it spoiled too. And it contaminated wherever it touched. That's right. Speech, I would argue, is an action. That is careless in a shared space, works exactly the same way. It doesn't just fail to help, it contaminates the room. Now, the teenager's Fitbit name, you can loosely say contaminated an entire aircraft for an entire evening for everyone. My phone calls, I'll be harsh, contaminated something in a friendship that I value, right? Neither of us set out to cause damage. Of course not. And that's precisely the point Paul was making. Graciousness requires intention. It requires the pause between impulse and action where you ask, what does this cost the people around me? So you have to know the people very well. Now, which brings me to a Sunday afternoon in the late 1990s on the east coast of Taiwan. Okay, my wife and I were on holiday, driving to a popular tourist destination on roads that look anything like you see in a typical Australian road. And it's not a criticism because it's an older country, right? Obviously, it's got older layout. It's narrower, less predictable. Yes, my next thing I want to say is we got hit by another car. Now in Australia, I know exactly what happens next. You pull over, exchange details, and you photograph the number plate, right? Call the insurance company, you drive off, right? No need to have a fight over it. It probably takes 20 minutes and a little paperwork. That's about it. Now, this was not Australia, of course. The other driver got out claiming he was in the right, for he seemed as uncertain about the protocol as anyone else. See, when you have a car crash. Now, I moved our car to the curb. In my mind, that was obvious, because we were on a live road, and getting hit again was a real possibility. So I felt, my intuition was to clear the space. So the police arrived. My wife did all the translation because her Mandarin is a native speaker. Mine, not at all. And she called her brother advice. Now, from my observation, the officer's entire focus was establishing fault. Who was to blame? Who would pay? I tell you, I was so frustrated. Not so much about the accident. Yes, the accident happens. I got accepted. I was frustrated because I had to move the car for everyone's safety, and that decision had muddled the liability picture. The system around me was entirely optimized for assigning blame rather than for the well-being of people standing on that road. Unbelievable, right? The other driver wanted his right. Meanwhile, I wanted everyone to be safe. Unfortunately, those two priorities produced two completely different responses to the same event. Put in a comment, guys, what do you reckon I should have done? Yeah? We were in the same shared space. We were not having the same experience of it all. Let's go back to Paul, yeah? And if this kind of thinking is landing for you, there's more of it on this channel. So please, do me a favor, hit the subscribe so you won't miss the next one. No, I never drove in Taiwan again after that afternoon. Yep, I let my wife take the wheel for the rest of the trip, and I sat in the passenger seat without complaints. So I wasn't sooking, right? No complaint, not because I was wrong to move the car, I feel, but because I recognized sitting there watching my wife navigate the conversation I couldn't participate in, that I was operating in a space I didn't fully understand. Yeah, the responsible thing, the gracious thing I thought was to hand over to someone who did. Now, friends, I want to ask you one thing before you move on today. Think about the shared spaces in your life. There must be one. Whether it's in the office, the road, or even at the family table. Yeah, where your family gathers. The comment sections, if you've got a YouTube channel or Facebook. Think about the last time you did something. Or you said something, you posted something, and you reacted to something, right? Focus entirely on your own intent without pausing to consider its impact. I think I've been replying quite politely to my comments. Yeah, put it in the comments below to see whether I've been doing a good job or not. Let me know. So, it's not whether you were technically right or whether you meant any harm, but it's just what did it cost the people in the room? Because the Fitbit was just a name, really, isn't it? I mean, the phone calls were a joke. Can you see the funny side of it? But someone else had to pay for both of them. Let's go back to the analogy. Salt preserves the room it enters. So the question worth asking is whether we are bringing salt or something else entirely. Because that is what Colossians chapter 4, verse 6 looks like when it gets out of the Bible and into your afternoons. Friends, whose Tuesday afternoon are you currently making harder than it needs to be? Or Wednesday or Thursday or any other day of the week? And that's today's message of hope. Thanks for joining me. It's getting a lot colder these days. Winter has hit hard in Melbourne. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share the videos too. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.